Hey, everybody. I'll give just like a minute or two to join. Christine is out today, so she asked us to kind of take over and run the meeting. So hopefully you're all doing well, surviving during a crazy busy season as always. I guess when we get to, hey, Elena. Just to get started, want to welcome any new coordinators who are on the call. If there's any new ones and you feel comfortable introducing yourselves, we'd love for you to unmute and say hi to everybody.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm one of the new coordinators.
Hi, Emily. Where are you?
I'm in Dayton, Ohio. I am replacing Nancy Bates for the time being, so hopefully we're going to make that permanent here real soon. So I'm at Wright State University for Nancy, so if you guys need anything from there, let me know.
Congrats. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, you ladies too. Thank you all for having me.
All right. And then I guess just a quick reminder, if there are any program updates in terms of leadership, coordinators, send them to Shayla and Joanna. I believe you all maybe got the agenda for the meeting. If not, I can always send it out to everybody. Okay.
I don't think we got it, Alyssa.
Okay.
I mean, I know what it is, of course, but I don't think it was sent out.
Okay. I can email everyone after the fact with like a brief, like minutes about the meeting. And then include their emails there. So we have a couple topics to go over today. We wanted to talk about incoming resident orientation and best practices that different people have, since this is kind of a bit busy, and especially if you're new to onboarding, there's a lot to kind of wrap your mind around. I'm just going to kind of go through like a quick overview of the discussion topics so we can kind of hop into some of the more discussion based ones, so you can think of questions as we go through. ACAPS will be eventually being renamed to ACAPS, which is like the American Council of Educators in Plastic Surgery, instead of just academic plastic surgeons. They're working on making it fully official in summer of 2023. Won't really change anything other than what we call ourselves, I guess, the ACAPS coordinators instead of ACAPS. We also have on the topic of talking about the in-service. So how do you celebrate those that do well? Probably also remediation would be a good topic. We haven't already talked about that this year. If you're a new coordinator, one of the questions was, how do you sign up to be a member of ACAPS? So I guess one of the questions is always like, why should you be a member? So it's important to be listed as a member to get policy updates, changes, any correspondence from ACAPS. There will be a link that I will send out, but you can also find it on the website. And we are, I think, either associate members or listed as like a coordinator membership now. I don't think it's as intense as it used to be. Like it used to always ask you for, was it your CV and a couple of other items where people would always get tripped up because it made it seem like they were more of a physician than we are. So I think that has been updated. It also gives you a discounted registration rate for like the big national meeting that we have each fall. It's pretty quick and easy to do. The ACAPS fall meeting or ACAPS fall meeting, that'll take a while to adjust to saying, will be in Austin, Texas as part of plastic surgery. Well, in conjunction with plastic surgery, the meeting. ACAPS has its own little like sub meeting within it. The housing is now open. So even if you aren't 100% sure you'll be traveling in person, I do recommend trying to make a reservation for your room sooner than later, just to get like your choice of hotel, whether it's the Conference Hotel or one of the other ones in the block. It's always, you might have to like sometimes pay like an initial deposit before you get reimbursed, but it's always easier to remove dates than it is to add once the block gets filled. So I was kind of overbook my stay and then shorten as needed. And we're going to start working and developing like the agenda for the meeting, but registration for the ACAPS coordinators will be available later in summer. It's a separate registration from plastic surgery, the meeting, and there's not really a reason that you'd have to register for PSTM unless you wanted to go to like a couple of the sessions, but usually you don't have to. Once again, we're offering travel scholarships to coordinators, so we'll work on getting a timeline kind of finalized for that. But in case your institution won't sponsor you to travel, it's a good option to use and get to go to the meeting. I really can't emphasize how great the meetings are just for like the networking and getting to see other coordinators in person and just like random side conversations that you have. I'm a really big introvert, but I've grown so much and learned so much about plastic surgery by being at the meeting and asking other coordinators like, hey, how do you handle this, when it's something I wouldn't necessarily always want to ask in a big group. So I really emphasize going to that. And then a couple quick reminders before we go into discussion. So the ASPS ACAPS joint boot camp will only have one site this year. It'll be in Tampa at the end of July. Registration for that is now open. And you register your residents by going onto the resident and fellow like thing through plasticsurgery.org through the ASPS site. So you can add your new residents to that, sign them up for the boot camp. They're following the same format as last year where you register them and then the program itself is responsible for covering travel and hotels. So there's no fee to register for the residents, but there is travel costs associated for the program. Another quick reminder, the written boards are coming up for the residents on May 9th, Tuesday. Just in case you need to know for your seniors who will be taking the written boards. There's not really much we have to do as coordinators. Thankfully, it's at a proctored center, but just making sure your chiefs are excused and out for the board exam. There will likely be some discussion at they call it like the society meeting, AAPS, this spring about ARIS and PSCA. Don't really have more information. We did get an email, or you should have gotten an email from ARIS about registration. To use ARIS next year, it's like ARIS account management, EAM is where you have to go in and say, yes, you'll be using ARIS, or no, you won't. If you didn't get it, check with your program director or GME office. You might just have to be updated, especially if you're a newer coordinator. And then I guess if your program only uses PSCA, you still have to go in and just say, no, we won't be using ARIS, but we will be recruiting for positions outside of ARIS. Meetings are recorded. Shayla has the recordings, so I will work on getting the link to the recording for this meeting and send out with like a real brief summary of things that were discussed. In the chat, Rhonda just said perks, and yes, you do get face-to-face time with ACGME and usually Glenn from the board, whether she's sometimes virtual, but it's really helpful to ask them questions directly. So, okay. Any other announcements that people had? Otherwise, we can go back to the discussion about orientation and in service.
Alyssa,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh, thank you. Alyssa, it's Beth Giacolano from the University of Rochester. Quick question for the meeting in the fall. Should we plan on, Friday, Saturday for that meeting?
I think so. I think that seems to be the format. I know we haven't been able to, at least I'm assuming we haven't been able to apply for the space yet.
Okay.
Unless there's a strong push for like a Thursday, Friday situation. I know that just starts to get difficult with like the ACAPS board usually has a meeting one of the
Okay.
days where.
All right, thanks.
Cassandra?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, as far as PSEA for next cycle, is it gonna continue? We're gonna keep using the PSEA 3.0. What's the plan?
I haven't heard too much. Elena, do you know, as far as I've heard, that they're keeping,
Yeah, I think the plan is to still continue to use the PSEA, the new version. They're working on it now. And they are going to be presenting at the spring meeting in a couple weeks. So I think we'll know more after the meeting.
Awesome. I just wanted to know for the ERAS purposes, what to put as what we're enrolling in or not. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if there's a deadline. I never read the email that closely because we have to use ERAS still, but I don't know if it's worth waiting, if there's fees or it depends on your institution.
It says May 31st, you have to complete the ERAS like maintenance, whatever by then. So I mean, we have over a month. I just like to get them done so I don't forget.
I can be sure that after the meeting, we at least update and kind of say like, this is what was discussed, or if there's any major changes or suggestions that we let others know. Okay, I guess orientation. Any coordinators want to chime in with best practices, things that they have found have really helped them? I know most of us probably partner a lot with our general surgery colleagues for orientation for the integrated, but just anything that you have found residents have really appreciated, or things that you wish you would have known to have them do back when you started. I think for the board of plastic surgery, I think someone said that they were able to add their new residents, but I don't think you have to necessarily right away. They normally send a message to update your roster each year. Especially once you do the like final sign up on your graduating seniors. And I know with the ACGME, you can't usually add your new residents until after they do like a administrative archive after July 1st, usually. Rhonda takes her interns around campus, which gives her one-on-one time with them. They get to know more about her. I know go ahead.
I was gonna say, we pair ours with the general surgery for the incoming intern. The fellow, we do a little differently just because they are coming from a different program typically. And so they don't finish until that last week and then they have to get our way. But something we started 2 years ago, which was like a meet and greet. And we typically did it like in-house at the hospital where we just bought breakfast and we had all the faculty and current residents and fellows and everybody attend. So that way, at least a couple days before, they were able to familiarize ourselves with everybody. And then we just do like a brief overview of new innovations, which is what we use for duty hours and things like that. How to submit vacation requests and all that fun stuff. And then our actual GME office has like a half-day GME required orientation that they all have to attend that goes over their health benefits and, you know, all of the fun stuff that GME provides for them. But in general, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about having some type of social before the actual, clinical time starts, just so that they can kind of meet their peers and get situated.
Rhonda said that they have their residents submit a PowerPoint slide about themselves and present it at conference. We do something similar where we have our new interns in like one of the first grand rounds of the year do like a quick 10-minute about me, about like where they grew up, where they went to college, what their hobbies are, and just kind of like a photo slide where it's like 2 to 3 slides about them. It's usually pretty good exposure. And then the one good thing with switching to all or like hybrid is that we record our conferences. So in theory, I could always send my new interns like the about me's of their other classmates. So they don't come in kind of feeling totally clueless as to who everyone else is. So that's my plan for this year. I was kind of being like, here's the past 3 years about me talks.
We have Epic at Mayo, and I've had really good luck with one of the upper levels taking the interns and setting up their personal profiles for the rotations that they will do, like their first rotation when they're still super green to Epic and trying to figure their way around. And that way, when they start on the floors, they have a little bit better idea of the templates for that rotation and some of that stuff. And I've had really good feedback off that one.
We also invite our incoming interns to graduation dinner. So that's just like Ava does. And Lynette. My residents usually do like a scavenger hunt across town, where you have to go to a couple different like restaurants or bars along the way, and like couple of the other residents are there at each place to kind of help them guide them to the next restaurant. So that way they get like a little mini like food tour of Madison and get to kind of socialize with the residents outside of work. It's usually pretty fun. It's a little worse at the end of the night, but it's always depends on how much they drink.
Who pays for that?
The residents just chip in, and so usually whoever's at each like restaurant kind of covers the tab for the interns. Kind of that way they're not paying for it, but that is.
Thank you.
Yeah. We do have like a formal intern welcome picnic amongst the division that we host each year. That's usually like at a park. Just do it in a shelter at a pretty like cheap catered meal. That's more of like the family friendly official. We'll put the division stamp on it versus the bar crawl is always like the unofficial. You're not forced to do it, but not sanctioned by the program, but we make sure there's time for it. So. Any questions people have about orientation or issues that they've been running into? I know last year I had a bunch of issues with my interns being abroad right around when we needed them to start coming on site. So this year I was very explicit in you need to stop, or like not stop, but plan on time to come get like an employee health screening sometime between match and your start. Was very clear that they'd have to at least make one trip to Madison, and that they couldn't rely on doing it like their first orientation day. So far that seems a little bit better. Still a little early to tell, but Okay. No other things on orientation, we can hop down to in-service. So what let's start on the good part. What do people do to celebrate residents who do well in the in-service? Do you do an award? Do you give them like a stipend? What do other people do?
We give an award at graduation with some gift cards.
We do an award as well.
For the highest score, most improved. Oh, and they get a nice dinner. For the 80%, is that on the like percentile or is it the percent correct?
Well, it's the percentile within their year and level. Yeah. So this year we had 3 people. Woo!
Does anybody find that there's any issues with with the awards in general? Because I know they're all competitive, and like, do you have any in-house going, wait a minute. So yeah, of course that person's getting the award every year because they get the highest in service, or like any I'm finding there's more residents going, wow, yep, you celebrate that person every year. Because we do an award too. And it's now we're a little.
But Colleen, they all have the opportunity to be that person.
Yes. And not everybody is a test taker. So like, it's hard sometimes, I think, to say, I usually send them an email before the exam and say, listen, this does not determine what kind of doctor you are. This determines how well you can take a test and how much you read prior to the test. I mean, it's hard because you have like plastic surgery residents are just all stars. And when they're competing for being the best their whole life, and now all of a sudden they're up against the best of the best, and now boom, okay, here's an award to the same person every single year. I granted that's just my place because the same person always got it. And I had one resident that constantly, and I would tell the resident, I'm like, listen, it's okay. You are doing a great job. I mean, honestly, the person was in the 80th percentile, but kept beating himself up because the other person was like 93rd percentile. But 87, 93, my gosh, you're a superstar. Like, this is not what this award is about. So like, that's where I'm trying to see if other programs get that too, or is it just Duke?
So Colleen, what if you do, okay, we're going to give an award to everybody who gets over a certain percentage then, and not say, okay, then the highest, and then, it might be 2 or 3 people instead of just 1 every time.
Yeah. But then everybody, so we have a lot that do very, very well. And we have a handful that struggle sometimes on tests. So, and then you have those 3 or those 5 that don't get an award. So, I mean, I get it. Not everybody can get an award. It's not about like everybody gets a trophy.
Right.
I totally get that. I'm from that generation where it's like, suck it up. You're not the best. Too bad you didn't win. The generations are a little different now. So
right.
It's
But,
become
and
a
I
little
understand
more
that.
challenging.
I understand that, but I still think that people who really excel on the exam should be recognized. Because they did excel on the exam. That shows that they did study and they did prepare and things like that. So
yes, or it's innate in them because some people just do well on tests all the time. I have children of my own, one that knows how to take a test and the other one that does not, so I don't know. I just, I get the whole, not everybody gets a trophy and everybody needs to suck it up, but I'm just finding it challenging to not put the ones that aren't doing as well in a good place, knowing that they are, like, kind of understanding they are doing very, very well. You know, it's just, this is a very competitive field. So I didn't know if anybody like didn't do awards, because we were actually thinking about not doing an award in the future because of that. So I didn't know if anybody had, any other programs had considered that as well.
We
or
don't do
do-
awards. And it would be for the same reason. We would have the same person who would get the same award every single year because he is an amazing test taker. And it's not because everybody else doesn't try really hard and put their best effort into it. It's just that he is an excellent test taker. I mean, he got 99th percentile and he does exceptionally well every year. But we have a small program, so it would definitely cause problems. I think there's a lot of competitiveness between them. And so, yeah, we just don't do this. We kind of keep it under wraps. We don't blast everybody with information. We don't even send it out to all the faculty always. Kind of like the program director and the chief of service know about it. And then otherwise their award is not having to do any remediation or any type of all year long quizzes and, you know, stuff like that to practice. So that's what we do.
Thank you.
We don't do awards either. This year, we tried to offer like a faculty funded cash incentive. So if they got at or above the 90th percentile, they would get $250 cash. That it would just be like out of a faculty pocket. They don't claim it on like taxes or anything. So it's not, you know, 250, but actually like 100.
Did you have anybody that got that, Alyssa?
We didn't, but we did also, so we did carrot and stick this year, where if you were at or below the 25th percentile, you'd have to do formal remediation. And I think we had 3 residents who were at that threshold versus normally we were a little bit lower. So it did encourage quite a few people to study.
Okay, and so are you saying the 25th percentile in their program and level, or 25th percentile correct?
Program and level.
Okay.
So like norm score 25% and below, they would have to do remediation. We still need to fully figure out what remediation will look like, if it's going to be based on the areas that they've scored lower on, or if it will be an overall. So that was part of why I'm also going to ask, what do you all do for remediation?
We have a curriculum based off of the tests that they've sent out in the past with quizzes and things like that. And they have like I think there's 2 quizzes a month that they have to do, and they meet with the program director and they go over those. And then there's particular faculty assigned to different topics based on what their area of expertise is. And we typically only have like 1 or 2 residents a year who have that. So it's not super demanding on the faculty, but that is what we do. We tried quizzes, like online quizzes modules, and we had everybody have to take them throughout the year. So then they were kind of like studying as they go all year. But I was creating the quizzes and only like 4 people were taking them a year. So I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this anymore.
So for us, I made up a fake exam based on questions that had no pictures or anything. Everything was just an essay question from the test from 2010 on, and it's 250 questions, just like the regular exam. They still have to come and they have to sit there and take the exam, and they have to score higher than 70% on the retake. And so far everybody has, because what they've told us is, you know, sometimes we just have a bad day. Sometimes we just have an off day. Sometimes we didn't get enough sleep the night before, and maybe that's why we did poorly on the exam. So we try to give them the benefit of the doubt as far as that goes. So, you know, one year, one of them, I mean, she literally had to put her cat down the day before, the cat that she had had since she was a child. And so she was like, I am in no position to take this exam, but I know I have to. So that's what we do. We just make them retake it. And if they don't get over 70% correct on the retake, then they get their education money taken away.
We actually, we do 30 percentile, anybody under 30, and our CCC actually assigns, one of our members is a mentor to that person. And then they actually send them a reading assignment, and then we let them do it based on their learning style. So what we will do is if they prefer outlines, they can outline what they read. If they prefer to have a conversation with the faculty member and have a discussion on what they read and talk about questions they might have had with the readings, they can do it that way. We've really kind of evolved that way because they used to kind of do some testing, but it wasn't working for us. So our CCC kind of developed another plan to just really create it based on their learning style, and each individual person is done differently. It's a lot of work. I know that. And it's a lot of time, but the faculty feel like they want to invest that time in our residents. So that's, they do that.
I was muted. I get the percentage of questions answered correctly, especially when it's integrated versus independent. That makes it way harder to compare, since the same score will get you a very different percentile.
And that's why we quit doing it, because it was so drastic. And we just didn't think it was fair because they're taking the exact same test. So we just thought, okay, we're basing it on the questions answered correctly. That way it's the same across the board.
Anyone else do anything for remediation that they have found helpful, or that you've seen results from, or do you just do it and you don't even know if it improves the score? Wasn't sure if anyone tracks that too, to be like, all right, did their score improve? And
I'd like to hear a little bit more about what Callie does. She said that they pay 20% of the written boards if they get a certain percentile. I'd like to know how that's gone over so far. Callie Handy.
all right. Anything else? Anything people want to talk about, have questions on?
I have a question for the group. So we were just wondering, people who have cadaver labs, when do you usually have these take place? Is it on the weekends? Is it in the evenings? Do you block off time during the week? What's the process you guys use for that?
So we have them once every quarter, and we use one of our Wednesday didactic sessions for it.
We do ours on the weekends.
How often are yours, Cassandra?
I go by Cassie, but it's
Cassie.
fine. We don't do them regularly per se. They're usually one of the faculty decides out of the blue that they want to do one, and then they schedule it for a month in advance. But I think we've done 2 this year, so probably semi-annually.
Sorry, my mic wasn't working before, and then it kicked me off of Zoom completely. But the way we've done it is, it's just, so back to the other question, sorry, the 20%. The way we've done it is their final 3 years, if they get above that percentage, they get 20% off the written boards. So it's kind of a lot of tracking for me, because then you just have to keep track. And then when they finally pay, and I think they pay in 2 installments now too. So you've got to remember how many, and they even pay 1 before the chief year. So it's not totally ideal, but they like it. And it is incentive. So I kind of like the idea of just adding more money to their funds, maybe equal to that amount, because that would be less tracking on our end for sure. But for the cadaver labs too, we try to do like 3 a year, try to do like one face, one extremity, one body. And usually if we have like a visiting professor we know coming out that's an expert in that area, then we try to coordinate it during that time as well. But oh, and then we do like a separate micro one with like rats and then vessels too.
And then related to that, how do most of you fund cadaver labs? Is it industry sponsored? Do you have funding through your program, through education, or do you partner with other specialties at your institution and share the tissue?
With ours, we usually follow general surgery cadaver labs because they don't use the same parts that we do. So for that reason, ours are scheduled like a year in advance. And it really helps on us not having to pay so much because cadavers are expensive.
Are you all having problems finding cadaver? Because we're having still a problem getting cadavers right now.
I am not involved in that process at all, so I have no idea.
Yeah, we're lacking. We're trying to do things here and there. We actually have a visiting professor coming in June, and we're trying to get some heads. And I know that it sounds horrible when I say it like that. I don't mean it like that, but yeah. But we haven't, we're having difficulty, kind of getting them still.
We had some issues for our facial trauma cadaver course as well this year.
Hi, I'm Helena. I work at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. So we use the Maryland, which is University of Maryland. We use their cadaver lab for ours, but we were doing ours quarterly last year. This year, our new chief residents haven't really scheduled, so we only have had one cadaver lab this year so far.
Do you guys use fresh or preserved? If you know, if you don't have to know, then I'm jealous.
I really don't know because I let them fill out the form.
We're preserved.
We used to use preserved, but then we switched to fresh.
I know, Alyssa, I want to get out of it too. I don't want to be doing that anymore.
The 5% extra duties as a side is really interesting in this world at times.
Okay, so I have to ask, what makes a dead body fresh versus frozen?
Usually they call it like fresh frozen. So usually they're all frozen and then you get them, versus like if they're soaked in formaldehyde, then they're preserved and they have like longer shelf life. Versus the fresh will start to get quite rank pretty fast if you aren't using them quickly.
And you have to allow them time to thaw.
Yes. Yes. You cannot microwave them. I had someone ask me one time if you could. That's gross. I know. I'm sorry.
Yikes.
I'm just trying to figure out what this order form looks like.
It's a trippy experience for sure.
$5,000 for a cadaver. Wow. Last I heard they were like 1,800.
For the full cadaver or just the?
I don't know.
This is also where it starts to get gross, talking about prices for bodies.
Body parts. Yeah.
I mean, even hands are like very expensive, like extremely expensive.
I apologize for everyone else on the chat that doesn't have to do this. I know that is sometimes squeamish, my other colleagues are like, huh. And I was like, well. Okay. And then when you guys, for people who do have industry sponsored, is it you have them like come in and teach a curriculum? Or do you strictly just have them provide either like the plating materials and like any other like in-kind support? Not in-kind. Well, is it called in-kind? I never remember when I'm filling out the grant, which one I need. No. You know, strikers sometimes will bring their like bus that has like specimens and they'll kind of provide the instructors or instruction. Versus we've had like other places where they've just brought specimens, the like tools, and then kind of been like, go at it.
Yeah, we've done a few, but we don't, we try the industry ones, we have to be really careful. Duke is very, very strict. So we try to figure out getting funds. Sometimes we do actually unrestricted educational grants, in which case then we use that. If we can get an unrestricted educational grant and then just use that. But they're so strict with us that it's very, very difficult to use the industries.
Speaking of industry funding, do people, any of you use industry for journal club funding? Or I know that's a big no-no for mine in terms of like, they cannot pay for meals, but.
So okay, how am I gonna do this? We have it cleared through our CME office. And they write a letter to the CME office. That's all, like the CME office here at UF has a like designated thing that they can sign that basically says that we're giving an educational grant to this group for them to use as they wish. And then we use that to sponsor the event, but it is very much defined as like an educational something or other. And then they sign something saying that it's not with the expectation that there's anything in return, is my understanding.
We do kind of the same thing. I couldn't tell you the last time we did not have an industry sponsored journal club, but we have one of our faculty members who's in charge of it. And we have a chief resident who sends out the assignments. That's the only thing I see. I don't see any kind of list of who attended. I don't see anything else, which I told him I cannot be involved at all. This is a dinner. It's usually at 6:30. And it's on their own time. They can go if they want to. They don't have to if they don't want to. So it's not mandatory. And I have nothing to do with it.
Are there certain industries that you found are good for sponsoring journal clubs if we need help finding sponsors? Like,
I couldn't even tell you who sponsors them.
okay.
Yeah. Not that I don't want to, I just can't because I don't know anything about it. It looks like a lot of people do the same thing. Yeah. Okay, Stephanie knows all of their sponsors. She can send them around. And I mean, the great thing is, I mean, they're not taking them to like Chick-fil-A, they're taking them to like Primo Steakhouses here. And so Journal Club at our institution is always very well attended.
Thank you for chiming in. I know this is like a weird thing to sometimes ask, but I don't like, we do journal club every month and like a faculty member is the one who like sponsors the dinner, but then inevitably they come back and be like, I need this reimbursed. And I was like, I have no money for this. So
I wanted to,
go ahead.
Eva at the University of Washington. I wanted to ask for those that are having sponsors for Journal Club, are any of you state universities? Okay,
State universities as in like University of Michigan?
yes, correct. So
Yes.
state funds, public funds,
Mhm.
because we have pretty strict rules about sponsors and not allowing them to sponsor things like Journal Club or meals. So I was just curious, those that were saying they had sponsors, if they were state universities or not.
We have the same
Looks like
rules.
2 of you are. Thanks.
I'm Amelia in Missouri. We have rules that make it so that the rep is allowed to pay for dinner. Occasionally, the reps are not allowed to pay the restaurant from their funds. So we have to get a letter from the GME stating it's okay to have those funds paid by me. But yeah, occasionally it is an annoying workaround that we have to do, but we are allowed to.
Thank you.
All right, anything else that people want to talk about or questions?
Hey, Alyssa, it's Beth Giacolano again from U of R in Rochester. Do we know when we might hear about, I know we just got done, but if interviews will be virtual or in person? We just discussed it this morning at our GME meeting. I know a couple of the subspecialties have already made decisions. Have you guys heard anything or?
I have not heard anything. My guess is this is something that will come up at the spring meeting, not this coming weekend after that. It's like
Okay.
April 29th is the like ACAPS at AAPS. So I'm hoping that they will discuss it and maybe have a decision there.
Okay, thanks.
I will try and make sure that we keep you all posted. And I haven't seen anything from AAMC yet either.
Hey, Beth, what specialties?
Peds, I know they already said Peds Madison. That was what was listed today at our GME meeting, and they did say that the AAMC has not put a statement out yet. And there was someone, I think in neurology, said that they were virtual. So there's
People are already going back to virtual again.
Yeah, staying
I was
virtual.
staying virtual. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see.
And then I'm curious too with like the potential staged. I don't know if that's my computer. I don't think it is. Sorry. The VA is pulling this. I don't know how to. That is weird. I didn't know the VA could file a conference room. With the NRMP proposing that delayed, like the staged certification timeline, I don't know how that will potentially change people's approaches to interviews, if they'll keep the actual interview virtual and then try and do more of like an organized regional visit. I know that was something that had, like, I think surgery was, pledging that they would certify the list early and then do an open house. But we aren't able to do that in plastics because of the no second look policy. But if the NRMP does try and say like programs can certify before residents, will that change, or students, like would that potentially change the timeline and encourage programs to keep it virtual and then just do like a open house so people can kind of pick what they're most interested in based on their programs and say like, okay, I'm going to travel to these 3, they're my top 3, and see which ones I like the cities or programs of better. Who knows? There's a lot of moving pieces this year. I mean, every year, but again, like Eris made a bunch of changes to like how it looks, and will that change people's feelings on PSCA? Will that, who knows?
Are you all finding that students are paying more for rotations now than they actually probably would have been paid for actually going to the programs in person and interviewing? Because that's what some students are saying. They're finding that it's so expensive to do sub-Is now because of staying for long periods of time and with the rent the way it is, and it's just out of control. And so the students, I think, are struggling more because they're trying to do more rotations. Is anybody else getting that too? No.
This year we changed our rotation to a 4-week for the first time. We used to always do 2 to keep costs down, but started getting feedback from students that they didn't feel like they got to like know the program well enough. So we changed it to a 4-week. Yeah, I can't imagine basically doing like a month's rent somewhere while you have another apartment rented out, and then we also do the diversity scholarship. It only helps that one student.
Us too. We do 3, but I mean, it's not a lot.
Was it ACAPS last year that mandated that they could only do like 2 or 3 interviews, or who mandated that?
I think that was like 2 years ago they did that.
Oh, was it 2 years ago?
AMC.
Okay.
Was it AMC or the schools? Like, how did that work?
I think it was AAMC said they could only do 1. Granted, it was up to like schools to like police. And then I think they could do 2 if they didn't have a home program, was the caveat for plastics.
Mm-hmm. But that rule is not in place anymore, right? Okay.
They can do as many as their schedules will allow. And they want to do like all of that. And just,
Yeah. I have some that have applied to us that are doing like 5 sub-Is other places. Cause like when I was trying to figure out dates, I went, holy mackerel. I'm like, are you, do you have any money left? Because I couldn't afford that. Crazy.
Alyssa, your program is doing 4-week rotations. You're not offering 2 weeks?
not anymore, no. That was a change this coming year.
We've always done 4 weeks. We've never done anything less than 4 weeks.
And I know we did the 2 weeks, and I know if there were some students who are like, I can't because I don't get credit from my school for 2 weeks. But now it's like, I don't know. I feel like we were one of, I think Cleveland Clinic maybe did 2 weeks as well. That was about it. But I know I emailed all of the people who had applied, and I was like, we're changing it to 4 weeks, as you know, like. If that changes your ability from here, let me know, but. Yeah, there were a couple who said now our 4-week dates that are set by the school don't work for their schedules. It's like, I can't. Thank you for this list of sponsors, Stephanie. That's super helpful. Okay, sorry. Any other questions from people? All right, well, it was great to see everybody. Best wishes on the next month. I'll be in touch shortly with, well, maybe not super shortly, but soon with the recap of the meeting, and then once the annual meeting is done, and if there's any updates with PSDA or virtual versus in person, I will be sure to let you all know. So thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.